It's late. The house is finally quiet. Your phone screen is glowing in the dark, and somewhere near the kitchen doorway, your dog is pretending not to hear you. Come here. Nothing. You say it again. A little firmer this time. Your dog flicks an ear in your direction, then goes right back to sniffing the corner of the room like your words dissolved into the air. And maybe, in that moment, you feel something sharp and frustrating because you know they heard you. So, the thought slips in automatically. They're being stubborn. Maybe even dominant, defiant, manipulative. But behavioral neuroscience tells a completely different story, because what your dog is doing right now is one of the clearest windows into their emotional state, stress system, and attachment psychology. And most owners have no idea. Let's start with the stubbornness theory, because it sounds reasonable. Your dog knows the command. You've practiced it 100 times. Sometimes they respond instantly. Other times, nothing. So naturally, people assume the dog is making a conscious choice to ignore them. But here's the problem. If dogs were simply stubborn, their disobedience would be consistent. It isn't. A dog who ignores sit at a crowded park may obey perfectly in your quiet living room. A dog who refuses recall during stress might respond immediately at home. The same dog can appear brilliantly trained 1 hour and completely disconnected the next. That inconsistency matters, because it tells us this isn't primarily about dominance or attitude. It's about emotional processing, and this is where modern canine cognition research changed everything. Dogs don't process commands like machines. They process them through emotional filters: stress, uncertainty, overstimulation, fear, confusion, fatigue. All of these directly affect whether your dog can respond to you in the first place. Think about it this way. If someone tried giving you complicated instructions during a panic attack, your brain wouldn't work normally either. You wouldn't be stubborn. You'd be overloaded. And your dog's nervous system works the same way. So, when your dog ignores you while another dog is barking nearby, while fireworks are exploding outside, while strangers approach too quickly, or while their body is flooded with stress hormones, the real question isn't, why won't they listen? It's, can their brain even process me right now? And that changes everything. In 2013, researchers at the University of Veterinary Medicine in Vienna adapted something called the Strange Situation Test for dogs. Originally, this test was designed in the 1970s by psychologist Mary Ainsworth to measure attachment between human infants and their mothers. The setup was simple. A dog entered a room with their owner, then the owner left, then a stranger entered, then the owner returned. And what they found was extraordinary. Dogs consistently use their owners as a secure base, exactly the way human children use caregivers. When owners were present, dogs explored more confidently. Their heart rates stabilized faster, stress behaviors decreased significantly. But when owners disappeared, many dogs showed measurable distress, even if food or toys remained available. That's important, because it means your dog's primary motivation isn't always reward. Sometimes it's emotional safety. A 2021 study from Eötvös Loránd University in Hungary found that dogs experiencing elevated stress showed dramatically reduced responsiveness to learned cues, even when those cues had been strongly reinforced during training. In some cases, command response rates dropped by over 40%. Not because the dogs forgot the command, because stress impaired cognitive processing. And this is where it gets emotional. When your dog ignores commands during moments of overwhelm, they are performing one of the most fundamental behaviors in attachment psychology. They are prioritizing nervous system survival over external tasks. They're not being difficult. They're telling you, I don't feel safe enough to think clearly right now. And honestly, for a lot of owners, that realization changes their entire relationship with their dog. Because suddenly, disobedience stops feeling personal and starts feeling communicative. But here's where it gets really interesting. Because this isn't just psychology, it's chemistry. In 2015, researchers at Azabu University in Japan, led by Dr. Miho Nagasawa, published one of the most famous dog-human bonding studies ever conducted in Science Journal. The researchers observed dogs and owners interacting naturally, then measured oxytocin levels before and after. Oxytocin is often called the bonding hormone. It's associated with trust, attachment, and emotional closeness between parents and children. And what they found stunned researchers. When dogs and owners made prolonged eye contact, both species experienced significant oxytocin increases. Dogs' oxytocin levels rose by as much as 130%. Owners' levels increased too, and wolves raised by humans did not show the same response. That distinction matters enormously, because it suggests this emotional feedback loop co-evolved specifically between dogs and humans over thousands of years. This only happens in deeply bonded pairs. Now, think about what happens when your stressed dog looks at you after failing a command. Maybe you see guilt, but behaviorists increasingly believe many of those looks are actually information-seeking behaviors. Your dog is scanning you emotionally, trying to determine, am I safe? Are we okay? What happens next? And your response changes the chemistry of the interaction. If you yell, posture aggressively, or create fear, cortisol levels rise further. Cortisol is the body's primary stress hormone. High cortisol directly interferes with memory retrieval, focus, and learning. Meaning, punishment can biologically reduce your dog's ability to succeed in that moment. But calm reassurance, predictable tone, gentle redirection, that helps regulate the nervous system instead. And this is where it gets deep. Your dog's ability to listen is not separate from their emotional state. It is created by it. So, when did this start? The answer is basically from the beginning. Long before cities, before agriculture, before writing. Around 15,000 to 30,000 years ago, certain wolves began lingering near human campsites. Not aggressive wolves, the calmer ones, the more socially tolerant ones. Over generations, humans unintentionally selected animals that were less fearful, more emotionally attuned, and better able to synchronize with human behavior. And eventually, those wolves became dogs. Archaeologists have found evidence of this relationship everywhere. In Bonn Oberkassel, Germany, researchers uncovered a 14,000-year-old burial site containing a human buried alongside a dog that had suffered severe illness during life. What's remarkable is that the dog survived long enough to heal partially, meaning humans likely cared for it extensively, fed it, protected it, maybe even comforted it. These weren't just working animals, they were family, and modern genetics supports this too. Researchers from Princeton University and the National Human Genome Research Institute identified unique genetic variations in domestic dogs associated with hypersociability and human-directed attachment behaviors. Some of these genes overlap with regions linked to social bonding in humans. Your dog isn't doing something unusual when emotional stress affects their ability to respond to you. They're doing something that's been selected for. Across 15 millennia, sensitivity to humans became survival itself. Now, I want to tell you about a study that nobody talks about because the finding seems impossible at first. In 2022, sleep researchers examining co-sleeping between humans and dogs found something strange. Objectively, many owners actually slept worse with dogs in the bed. More movement, more awakenings, less uninterrupted REM sleep. By traditional sleep quality standards, the data looked negative. And yet, almost every participant reported feeling more emotionally secure sleeping beside their dog. Less anxious, more relaxed, safer. How is that possible? Because human nervous systems don't measure safety purely through physical efficiency. They measure it socially, emotionally, evolutionarily. For most of human history, mammals survived in groups. Sleeping alone meant vulnerability. Warm breathing nearby meant protection, connection, belonging. So, maybe your dog isn't just disrupting your sleep. Maybe they're restoring something older than modern comfort. And maybe that same emotional safety system explains why dogs struggle to respond when they feel disconnected, overwhelmed, or uncertain. Because regulation always comes before obedience. And the newest research makes this even more fascinating. In 2024, researchers studying heart rate variability, or HRV, found that bonded dogs and owners showed synchronized physiological patterns during shared emotional experiences. Heart rhythms aligned, stress responses mirrored each other, even cortisol fluctuations became correlated over time. Their nervous systems were literally influencing one another. But here's the critical part. This synchronization did not occur between unfamiliar dogs and unfamiliar humans. This only happens within bonded pairs. And that means something profound. Your dog doesn't merely hear your commands mechanically. They experience you biologically. Your tension affects them. Your calm affects them. Your frustration changes their nervous system. And this is why emotionally dysregulated environments produce worse behavioral outcomes, even with highly trained dogs. Because training does not override biology. Biology shapes access to training. Sleeping beside your dog, walking together, breathing together after stress. These aren't just emotional experiences. They're neurological events. There's one last thing I need to tell you, and it might be the most important part of this video. If your dog has responded reliably for months or years, and one day suddenly begins ignoring commands consistently, don't brush it off. Dogs are creatures of habit. When deeply established behavior changes abruptly, there's always a reason. Sometimes it's environmental, a new pet, a schedule shift, construction noise, a stressful household dynamic. Sometimes it's physical pain. In fact, reduced responsiveness is often one of the earliest indicators of discomfort, long before limping or visible symptoms appear. And in older dogs, sudden confusion around familiar commands can signal canine cognitive decline. Research from the University of California, Davis estimates that cognitive dysfunction affects up to 35% of dogs over age 13. Your dog doesn't have language. Behavior is the only way they can tell you something is wrong. So don't just ask, "Why is my dog ignoring me?" Ask, "What might my dog be experiencing?" That question changes the relationship completely. So, the next time you call your dog's name and they hesitate, the next time they seem distracted, disconnected, overwhelmed, the next time you feel tempted to label them stubborn, remember what's actually happening. 15,000 years of evolution. An attachment system remarkably similar to the bond between parent and child. A neurochemical feedback loop involving oxytocin and cortisol that no other species shares with humans in quite the same way. And a nervous system constantly trying to balance safety, emotion, and connection. All pointed at one truth. Your dog listens best when they feel safe with you. Not afraid of you. Safe. And honestly, the science suggests that relationship might be regulating your nervous system too. If this changed how you see your dog, subscribe to Mindful Pause and drop a comment below. I want to know, what's one moment your dog ignored you that suddenly makes more sense now? And if you want to understand why your dog follows you from room to room, even when they're half asleep, that's the next video. And the science behind it is even stranger than you'd expect.